A significant shift in military strategy is echoing across Europe as the U.S. announces a troop drawdown. Meanwhile, tensions in the Middle East are escalating with Hezbollah's drone production. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. A recent outbreak of a suspected rat-borne virus aboard a cruise ship has resulted in the deaths of at least 3 individuals. The cruise line, which has not been publicly named, reported that the outbreak occurred while the ship was docked in a popular tourist destination. Authorities have launched an investigation to determine the source of the virus, which is believed to have originated from contaminated food or water. This incident has raised serious concerns about health and safety standards in the cruise industry, especially in light of previous outbreaks. Passengers and crew members are being monitored for symptoms, and the ship has been quarantined to prevent further spread. The cruise line is cooperating with health officials to ensure that proper protocols are followed. This situation is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities in systems designed to protect public health. As investigations continue, the cruise industry may face increased scrutiny and regulatory changes to prevent such incidents in the future. Hezbollah has reportedly begun domestically producing drones, a development that raises alarms in the region. The militant group released footage purportedly showing its fighters engaged in drone manufacturing activities. This marks a significant escalation in Hezbollah's military capabilities, particularly as these first-person view drones are relatively easy to produce. Following previous conflicts, Hezbollah prioritized strengthening its drone production capabilities, which could now threaten Israel and its allies. Israeli military officials have expressed concern, suggesting that Hezbollah's drone production facilities may be targeted in future operations. This situation adds to the already high tension along the Israel-Lebanon border, where military posturing has become increasingly common. The international community is closely monitoring these developments, as they could lead to a new round of hostilities in the region. Experts suggest that diplomatic efforts may be necessary to mitigate the risks associated with this new threat. European leaders are reacting to U.S. President Donald Trump's surprise decision to withdraw thousands of troops from Germany. This drawdown is perceived as a signal that Europe must enhance its own security capabilities, independent of U.S. military support. During a recent meeting in Yerevan, Armenia, several leaders expressed concerns that this move could destabilize the region and embolden adversaries. The decision has sparked debates about the future of NATO and European defense strategies. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen highlighted the need for increased defense spending among EU member states to compensate for the reduced American military presence. French President Emmanuel Macron echoed these sentiments, urging for greater European autonomy in defense matters. As Europe reassesses its security framework, analysts suggest that this could lead to a shift in military alliances and cooperation. The long-term implications of this decision remain to be seen, but it is clear that Europe is at a crossroads. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called for tougher measures to combat rising anti-Semitic attacks linked to recent protests over the Gaza conflict. Starmer's comments come amid increasing tensions in the UK, where protests have escalated and resulted in violent incidents. The government is facing pressure to address these safety concerns while respecting the right to protest. Starmer emphasized the importance of protecting communities from hate crimes, stating that the government must take decisive action to prevent further escalation. Critics of the government's response argue that a balance must be struck between civil liberties and public safety. The situation is complicated by the broader geopolitical context, as the conflict in Gaza continues to provoke strong emotions globally. As the UK grapples with these challenges, the Prime Minister's call for action highlights the delicate nature of managing social unrest while ensuring the safety of all citizens. Iran's military strategy is under intense scrutiny following recent declarations from officials suggesting a potential resurgence of conflict with the United States. Iranian military leaders have asserted their readiness for various scenarios, including military confrontation, should diplomatic efforts falter. This aggressive rhetoric emerges amid ongoing tensions surrounding nuclear negotiations and persistent regional security issues, particularly with neighboring countries. Analysts argue that Iran's posturing is a calculated move to bolster its influence in the Middle East and deter perceived threats from the U.S. and its allies. Additionally, the Iranian government is reportedly enhancing its military capabilities, raising concerns about an arms race in the region. The implications of this situation are profound, as renewed conflict could destabilize not only the Middle East, but also have ripple effects on global energy markets and international relations. Moving forward, the focus will remain on diplomatic avenues, with urgency for negotiations to mitigate the risk of escalation and foster long-term stability in the region. Recent protests across various nations have highlighted growing economic concerns as inflation rates soar and living costs rise. Citizens are increasingly frustrated with government policies perceived as inadequate in addressing their economic hardships. In several European countries, demonstrators are calling for more substantial measures to combat inflation and support struggling families, reflecting a broader trend of discontent over economic inequality. This unrest is fueled by a cost of living crisis, exacerbated by global supply chain disruptions and energy price spikes. The economic implications are significant, as governments may be compelled to reconsider their fiscal strategies to appease the public and restore trust. Analysts are closely monitoring these developments, noting that sustained unrest could lead to market volatility and decreased investor confidence. The situation is evolving rapidly, with many governments facing mounting pressure to implement effective solutions. As the protests continue, policymakers are likely to explore new approaches, such as targeted financial relief programs and inflation control measures, to address the urgent needs of their citizens in the coming weeks. A powerful earthquake struck Southeast Asia, leading to widespread destruction and loss of life. The magnitude 7.5 quake hit during the early hours when many were still asleep, causing buildings to collapse and triggering landslides in remote areas. This region, known for its seismic activity, has faced similar disasters in the past, highlighting the urgent need for improved infrastructure and emergency preparedness. Emergency services are currently engaged in rescue operations, with efforts hampered by damaged roads and ongoing aftershocks. Local authorities have reported numerous casualties, and the death toll is expected to rise as search and rescue operations continue. International aid has begun to flow in, with neighboring countries offering assistance to help the affected regions recover. The earthquake has raised significant concerns about preparedness and response protocols in seismic zones, prompting discussions on enhancing building codes and disaster response strategies. As recovery efforts progress, the focus will shift to rebuilding homes and providing long-term support to those affected by this disaster, ensuring their resilience in the face of future challenges. Global economic policies are undergoing significant shifts as countries grapple with inflation and economic recovery. In recent months, many nations have reassessed their fiscal strategies, prioritizing measures aimed at stabilizing their economies amid rising prices. Central banks, particularly in advanced economies, are facing mounting pressures to adjust interest rates in response to fluctuating inflation levels that have reached multi-decade highs. This situation has sparked intense discussions about the long-term impacts of these policies on global markets and trade dynamics. Economists caution that while short-term interventions may provide necessary relief, they could lead to unintended consequences such as asset bubbles or increased public debt in the future. The interconnectedness of global economies means that policy changes in one region can have ripple effects worldwide, potentially destabilizing emerging markets. As countries navigate these challenges, international cooperation and dialogue will be essential to foster economic stability. Looking ahead, the coming months will be pivotal as nations work to balance growth, inflation control, and sustainability amid rapidly evolving economic landscapes, with a focus on coordinated efforts to address shared challenges. Rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait have caught the attention of global leaders as military activities escalate. Recent reports indicate that China has significantly increased its military presence in the region, conducting exercises that simulate a blockade of Taiwan. This provocative maneuver has raised alarms in Washington and among allies, prompting urgent discussions about potential responses. The United States has reaffirmed its commitment to Taiwan's defense, emphasizing the importance of maintaining stability in the region while urging de-escalation of tensions. Both sides are acutely aware that any miscalculations could lead to a dangerous confrontation. Analysts suggest that the situation is becoming increasingly precarious, with geopolitical implications that could disrupt international trade and security. The Taiwan Strait, a vital shipping route, is crucial for global supply chains, with a significant portion of the world's semiconductor production taking place in Taiwan. As military posturing intensifies, diplomatic efforts are essential to prevent escalation into conflict. The upcoming weeks will be critical in determining the trajectory of this evolving situation, particularly as regional stakeholders engage in dialogue to address their concerns. Continued international cooperation will be vital in navigating this complex landscape and ensuring peace in the Taiwan Strait. In a surprising move, the United States government has announced a significant drawdown of troops stationed in Germany, a decision that has sent shockwaves through Europe. President Donald Trump's announcement is part of a broader strategy aimed at reducing U.S. military presence abroad, which he argues allows European nations to take greater responsibility for their own security needs. Historically, the U.S. has maintained a substantial military footprint in Europe, particularly during the Cold War, to counter the Soviet threat. Now, this troop withdrawal is seen as a pivotal moment in transatlantic relations, raising alarms among European leaders about their security landscape. French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz have expressed their dismay, emphasizing that this decision undermines NATO's collective defense principle. They contend that the U.S. military presence is crucial for deterring potential aggressors, particularly given ongoing tensions with Russia. The implications of this withdrawal are far-reaching, as it may embolden adversaries in the region and prompt European nations to reconsider their defense spending and military strategies. As discussions continue regarding the future of NATO and U.S.-Europe relations, this move could reshape the security dynamics in Europe for years to come. The European Union may need to accelerate efforts to establish a more unified defense policy in response. Thank you for watching. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.